Okay, hopefully everybody's here able to hear me. Welcome to Learning HTML. My name is Dare. I'm going to be, I said Learning HTML. Welcome to day 4, or this is actually 5. I think the thing is incorrect. Welcome to day 5 of Learning Python. And yeah, I'll be teaching you guys Python. So let me share my screen. Let's get started. Okay, so it's been added. So last camp we discussed while loops and for loops and creating loops in Python. And this camp I actually want to go touch back on a previous slide day, so we can look at creating methods with Python, because that was also part of last day, but we didn't have enough time to get to it. And yeah, but let's just see what today's topics are. So of course we're in Python 3. And yeah, so once again, last time we learned about creating for loops. We learned how to create while loops. We learned about the assignment operators. We learned about iterating by item, like iteration by item. So that was looking through lists and iterating by how many items are in the lists. And then we were meant to learn about methods and string methods. So let's actually touch on that right now. So if you give me a second, make sure I'm sharing that. And we'll continue off from there, and we'll go into the new content we have for today. So I think, one second. I think you guys can see my screen again now. And yeah, so this was from the previous camp day. So let's look at methods, or Python methods. So methods are built into Python to save us a lot of work and a lot of times. Python has some very useful methods that we can use on strings per se, and we call these string methods. So here's an example of some string methods. The only reason there's string in front of them is because these methods can be applied to string. And pretty much their syntax for them is a period, so that dot symbol. Then it's the name of the method. In this first example, it's strip. And then it's the closing and opening parentheses. And that goes for all the other methods. So that's how we apply them, and it goes immediately after that variable name. So it's variable name and then it's dot strip, or variable name dot lower, variable name dot operator. So let's look at it for ourselves in the IDLE. Let's create a Python file. And then we'll create a string, and we'll say, actually, let's go like this. Let's collect user input first. So I'll say, I'll just call it A. A equals input. I'll just put it like that because I'll say type here. And then after that, now we want to print out the user's input. Since we know this will be saved basically as a string, we want to print out the user input in all uppercase letters. How could we do that? Well, to do that, we could use the method dot upper. So let me write down the line, print, and I'm going to say a dot upper. So this is what it looks like. So once again, that variable name, that period, and we put our method after it. In this case, dot upper is a string method. So let's see what it looks like. So let's save this. I have to save it to something. I'll save it to my desktop. I'll say test.py. And then now let's run this. So type here, I want to type in hello in all lowercase. And we see that it returns it in all uppercase. So that's how we can do that, and that's one of the string methods. So this could possibly be used in one of your programs. Maybe if we're trying to check user input and see something, and maybe you don't want to have to read both uppercase and lowercase, and you need to be all lowercase. You can check for that, of course. You can say if something equals dot upper, or you can convert it to lowercase yourself, so you can put it into your database or something. I don't know. But yeah, it can be useful for a lot of things. So that's just one string method, and there are a lot of methods in Python, not just for strings, for files, or sorry, for like lists, for all the other data types. And yeah, there are a lot of methods. For example, I believe one is list, or it's a list method, and it's dot append, and it's to append to on top of a list, so you can add stuff to it. And yeah, so those are pretty much methods. So for example, another thing, maybe you're having somebody create a username for your program, and your program has everything as in lowercase or whatever. Of course, you could use dot lower. So dot lower is just the opposite of dot upper, and it's it converts it to lowercase letters. So let's save this and run it again. Let me drag this over here, and I'm going to type in everything in uppercase. So I'll say test hello. And we see that it returned to in all lowercase. So yeah, you can imagine why that would be used. So that's dot lower. We also have dot strip. So dot strip, pretty much what that does. Actually, I'll let you see, I guess, honestly. So let's save that and run it. Drag this over here, and let's use it. So I'm going to say, hello, my name. Let me actually rerun that. I guess I'll do like this now. Save that. Hello. Oh, you can't see it on the screen. Let me go kill this program here, and I'll run it here. Save, run. I'll say, hello, my name is. So let me see. I'm doing something incorrectly here. Definitely. Let me check my slides. So strip.lower.upper. Okay, let me see what's going on here. Okay, I think I'm missing something. But anyways, okay, hold on. Give me a second to check something. Because I think my presentation is missing something. It might be acting a little bit weird. Okay, so I'm not too sure what's going on there. Let me go back to my screen. But pretty much what dot strip does is it's meant to strip white space. So I'll go something like this. Let's just create A, and I'll say it's how are you? If I say a dot strip, I believe that is meant to remove white space. I hope I'm not mixing this up with something else. But let's run it. Okay, yeah, maybe I'm mixing up with something else. That's my bad. Oh, okay. No, I'm using it incorrectly. So pretty much it's just the white space before and after the string itself. So if you put a white space before and after, not in between. That's my mistake, sorry. So if I have something like this, so let's say I have a bunch of spaces before like this, and I save this and I run it. So let's say F5 to run. I'll save, yeah. If I run it now, we see that removes the white space at the beginning and also after. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So I can still have my spaces here, just gonna remove what's before and like what's after. So any beginning white space and ending white space. So that's dot strip. And there are just many more methods in general to play around with. So maybe we'll use dot append right now. Let me open that up again. New file. Let me open up a previous file 1 second. I accidentally closed it. Okay, there we go. It's back open. So yeah, let's test one more method. We're not gonna learn all the methods, of course, because there's a lot for a lot of different things. But let's look at one more for a list. So I'm gonna create a list called cart. Let's remember to create a list, we use those brackets. So I'm typing with this different keyboard now. So sorry if you can hear my keyboard. I'm gonna switch it out. So I'm gonna say cart equals, let's say we have what inside it? We have, I'll just call it item 1. We have to make it a string. Item 1, item 2, put a string there. Item 2, and we'll say item 3. Like that. And we can also append to that list with like cart.append. So I'll say cart.append. And in this case, we're passing something through parentheses, so it's whatever's in here. So I'll just say, let's just create input and make user type in something. I'll say A equals input, and I'll say it's just type here. Say cart.append A, and then it should print cart. Okay, so that should be good. Let's save this and let's run it. So type here, I'm going to type in hello, and we see that hello was added to the cart. So that's another way of doing it. We already know another way we can add on to our list. But yeah, that's just another way. .append to add onto the list afterwards, so to append to the list. So there are many methods that can be used for different things to make things a lot easier and simpler. And these are just some built-in methods. And of course, more can be added with something called modules. But yeah, these are some basic stuff for now. Those are something to keep in mind. And I recommend, like, you're ever going to try to do something, you want to make sure like a method maybe doesn't already exist that can do it. And yeah, so methods can be really useful to do a lot of different things. And I only showcase like 4 methods, but there are a lot more. So now let's move on to today's camp. Hopefully that explains methods a bit. There's not too much to say about them. But yeah, so our goals for today's camp are to learn how to create functions in our Python program. If we remember, once I said that we can create Python functions, we can create our own functions, and we can also create our own functions, and we can use built-in functions in Python, like the print function. So that's one thing. We want to create our own functions. We also want to learn how to get our Python program to read a text file, also write and do other stuff to the text file. And we want to get our Python program to learn about, we want to also learn about list methods. So let me break that down again. I didn't say that too clearly. So we want to learn how to create our own functions. We want to get our Python program to read a text file. We want to get our Python program to write to a text file. And we want to learn about some list methods. So flashback to day 2, once again, when I was talking about functions. A function is a reusable action or statement that triggers a series of events. Many functions exist around us, and then an example of a function I mentioned was cleaning your room, and how there are different different actions that involve in that one. So sweeping your floor, blah blah blah, wiping your mopping your floor, vacuuming, just a lot of different things, folding your clothes, and yeah. So we also said that a function in Python is a reusable block of code that can perform an action, and a function can only run it as called. And we also once, of course, learned that we can create our own functions or use built-in functions in Python, and then functions can use arguments. So that's just a flashback to what we were doing. So arguments in Python, just another flashback to make sure we're refreshing and understanding everything. An argument is a value provided to a function when you call it. And when we create an argument in Python, we are arguing for that argument to be taken with the function. So for that print function, in those parentheses, we pass an argument with it usually. And that argument's whatever we want to print out, of course. So yeah, let's create our own functions in Python. So above, we have created our own function, and let's break down what's going on here. So first of all, to create our own function, we have another keyword. Remember those keywords in Python? We have the def keyword, so def, and it's pretty much what's used. It's short for define, I guess, and it's used to define a function. So you have def, and after that, we have the name of our function. So in this case, the name of this function is greeting. After that, then we have to put our open and closing parentheses, and there we can pass other information as well. But for now, we can also leave it empty. So this is our function name, greeting, and we have those parentheses like that. So we have a colon, and then of course on our next line, we have what actually goes into that function. So in this function can be pretty much anything we want to be in it, and because it's just the steps we want that function to perform when you call on it. So in this case, this function prints hey, then it prints long time no talk, then it prints how are you, and then that's pretty much it. But remember, in Python, the only time our function runs is when we call on it. So sure, we've defined a function here. That function's not going to run unless if we now go later on in our program or immediately afterwards the function that we defined and call it. So this is how we call a function. We simply just type the function name and we pass the parentheses, and if we have any arguments with that as well. So that's pretty much what's going on in this function. It's pretty simple. We're just using print. If we wanted, we could put loops in our function. We can put, of course, if-else statements. We can put a lot of stuff in our function. So we have to learn about something called parameters as well, because we can put parameters inside when we're defining our functions. but let's talk about what parameters are. So a parameter is a variable listed inside the parentheses of a function definition. So this is the function definition up here. And what we put in here, we pass something through the parameters here. We call parameters when we're up here, and then when we're actually calling on the function, when we're about to use the function, what we're passing here is the argument to be taken. So these are parameters when it's in defining the function, and these are arguments when we're just calling on a function. We want to pass an argument with it. So yeah, a parameter is a variable listed inside the parentheses of the function definition, and they appear in the brackets of the function definition. So here's what it looks like once again to create this function. Line 1 defines the function. We have the def keyword in the name of our function parentheses. We gave the function its first step, its second step, its third step. In this case, it's just printing stuff. And then later on, we called on the function. So let's go test this out for ourselves now that we've looked at it here. So let's open up our IDLE and then let's write some code. So once again, to create our function with the def keywords, I'm just going to type in def, and now we're getting ready to define a function. So let's call this function add 5. So what this function is going to do is that's just going to add 5 to whatever number the user enters in. So for this function, we're actually going to need to pass a variable, or sorry, a parameter. And this parameter is going to be something that we can use within our function. And yeah, so we're going to call this x for now out here. So in here now, we're just going to type what our function needs to do. So it pretty much just needs to returns another keyword for basically saying, returns another keyword that you can pretty much use to, let me see, how can I put this? Actually, I guess we're not using return yet, but return to keyword pretty much just used to say, like give this value, like give. So it's actually getting an output for that, if that makes sense. So pretty much we're just going to say x plus 5, or I guess we'll actually do say return x plus 5 up here. And that's pretty much it. So return is like, once again, it's outputting that somewhere. So that's getting outputted from our function. So return x plus 5. And let's just say that's the end of our function now. So we have add 5, and then we pass the parameter x. So this x here is just a variable that's being used in the function. We can name this anything, of course. I can name this hello. I can name this whatever I'd like to name it. And then I have to put hello here as well. This only matters for our function specifically, and this doesn't matter outside of it. Because outside of it, when we're calling on our function like this, what's going to happen is that we need to pass a value here, right? We're saying add 5, but add 5 to what? And that's pretty much that argument we pass. So you see up here, we create a parameter so that argument can exist later on. And down here, we're actually passing an argument out. So if I put in just one thing here like this, if I put in, if I say 14 like that, that's pretty much taking the value of hello since it's the first thing. If I had multiple things, maybe I had another one. Let's say I want to pass 2 values. So I'll say, let's call this, I'll call this x again. So if I had 2 values I maybe wanted to pass, I'm saying x plus 5, I would say x plus o plus 5. I would need to pass 2 things here as well. And I need to pass it in the exact order as it's defined in. So it's xo. So whatever I want my x to be, it's going to be here. Whatever I want my o to be, it's going to be here. So I'll say 10. So 14, 10. We'll save this and we'll run it. Or actually, we need this to print out, right? So to get this to print out, we need to actually put this in a print function. Because our function alone right now, it doesn't tell it to print anything out. If we wanted to, we could put a print statement in here, but as it is, it doesn't say to print anything. So let's put this in a print function as well. So now it's in 2, and then let's run this. So we're passing the arguments 14 and 10. And those are basically taking the values of x and o. So saying x plus o, and I actually have to put plus 5 here as well. So let's save that and let's run it. And we see our output here is 29. And that makes sense because 14 plus 10 is 24, and then plus 5 is 29. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So that's a simple function. It's just doing math now. And yeah, we could have a lot more going on in our function. We can pass other variables. We can create more parameters that we want to go up here that can be doing different things, of course. So hopefully that makes sense. So I'll do one more example of creating our own function. We're going to be looking at this more often. This is just to get a feel for it and understand what's actually being read in here, like the basic syntax. Later on, when we're building programs, we're going to actually be using this. So it's all right if you don't think you're too comfortable with it yet, I guess. You can also play around with this on your own, but we'll mess around with it more as well. So I'm going to say define, let's call this, we'll just create the greeting function we saw in the example. And then let's say it has steps of printing now. Let's just say it has to print, keep writing that, it has to print, hello, how are you? So that looks good, honestly. We can save that and then we'll have it print out. So instead of now using the print function, we don't need to do that anymore. All we need to do now is just run the greeting function. So it's greeting. And as you see here also in this example, we didn't give it any parameters, so we're not going to put any arguments here either. And that's pretty much all we need for this function, because it will also print out what it wants on its own. So we save that and we run it, and we see it simply displays hello, how are you here. So hopefully, once again, this all makes sense. If you have any questions as we're going through this, you should put them in chat so I can answer them. And yeah, so if you have any questions about using a function, or maybe if you want to ask if you can do something with a function, if that works to do it, I'll try to answer your questions. You can put them in chat. So that's pretty much the basic thing we need to know about creating functions for now. And once again, we'll be messing around with this later. So let's go back to our presentation. So next, we're going to be learning about reading and writing into a file. So this is our main focus and what we're going to be looking at for the longest amount of time. And yeah, so reading a file. In order to have our Python program read to a text file, we need to, of course, have a text file for it to read. It is important that we have a text file saved in the same directory as the Python script. So when I say directory, pretty much what you should just take it as is folder. I mean like the same location that your script is. And when I say script as well, I mean that Python file we have as well. So that .py file that we're writing our code, want it to be located where our text file is going to be as well. And the reason for this is that when our Python program, when we do the steps in order for it to go ahead and try to find our, let me see, when it goes and tries to go and find our text file, it'll be near and it'll be able to do it faster, and it will be able to actually find it at all even. So yeah, opening a file in Python now. So to open a file in Python, we have a function called the open function. It's used for opening files. And yeah, so opening files and closing files in Python, you'll realize that that's actually like a proper thing. You have to open the file and close it to save it. And there's just a lot going on there. But yeah, so the first most important thing we get to do is open the file. So we have different modes we can open a file in, and for what we're trying to do, we're going to be using read mode first, since we're just reading a file. So the open function looks like this, just open into parentheses, and we have to pass two arguments with it. The first one is our file name, and the second one is the mode we want to open the file in. So in this case, we're opening it in read mode, so we just put in the string R, and R is short for read. There are other modes to open it in, and we're going to be looking at that today, actually. So yes, the read mode, if you're curious about it, it only allows the Python program to read the file, and the Python program has no permission to make any changes to it. So it can only read it. And yeah, of course, in order for it to actually open the file needs to exist, by the way. So let's do that right here. So let me get out of full screen here. Let's look at my desktop. So let me make sure you guys can see my desktop actually. Okay, yeah, so you guys can see my desktop. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new folder because I want it to be in the same location. Once again, my script and my file. I'll call this folder test as well. I already have that Python file, which is over here. So I have my Python file right here, and I'm just going to put it in my folder. And now I also want a text file, right? So I'm going to open up Notepad and just create a simple text file in here as well. So I'm going to call this, or I'm just going to put some random text in here. I'm going to say, hello, test 1, 2, 3. I think you can read, okay, you guys can read, that's all zoom in. So that's that. And now let's save this file as something. I'll put on my desktop and inside this folder. And I'll call this folder file.txt. So now that file exists, and that's pretty much good. So let's go back here. We can see that in our test folder, we have our Python file and we have our text file. So the Python file can now just go one up to look at the text file. So let's open up our Python again. And let's get writing. I'll go full screen here. Go back here as well. So here's an example right here. And yeah, so we opened the file with this code. So here's what our text file contains in this example. We're also going to do our own example, but it contains multiple lines with just one thing on each line. So it's oranges, apples, pears, bananas. So when our Python prints, when we tell it to read and print the lines of the text file, is that it prints it as a list. It prints oranges /n, apples /n, pears /n, bananas /n, and then strawberries. So the reason it does this, and we'll be learning about this as well, it's going to be useful for a lot of things, is because of this symbol at the end of this /n. Why is it adding this /n is what we're trying to figure out right now, right? That doesn't make any sense to us because we only put oranges, apples, pears, bananas, and strawberries in it. So the /n, when you print out your text file in Python, once again, we saw that /n right behind where the line would end. This /n is known as an escape character and is how our Python program knows to go to a new line. So although we're writing in our text file normally, every time we press that escape button to go to our next line or enter or whatever we press to get to our next line, it creates basically this /n that we can't see, but our Python program can see. So our Python program sees this escape character and it knows to create a new line. That's how it knows how to read it as a new line. So yeah, so once again, although we don't see it in the text file, our Python program does. And that's why it prints it out with the rest of the content. And that's also why it doesn't print it out for the last line, strawberries. And that's because there's no new line after strawberries. So on each of these lines, there's like an invisible /n that exists here, and our Python program seeing it and printing it out. So getting rid of the escape character, and this is also going to be used to actually write to our text, or sorry, read our text file. So let's read our text file first. So I'm going to go over here and we're going to do it. So let's open our text file first. We're going to assign this to a variable. I'm going to say the name of our, let's put the variable A, and I'll say open. So open's the function we're using. Now we're going to put in first the file name. So the file name is, I think it was file.txt. And then after that, we separate it with a comma and put the mode we want to open it in. So we're opening it in read mode. Now after that, now we're using a file method, which is pretty much .read lines, and it looks like this. So pretty much what this does is that this reads the file text txt. It's pretty much reading it. It's actually reading it now, and then it's saving it in a list basically. So let's show what that looks like. I'm going to go like this. So a.read lines is pretty much this. We don't need to pass any arguments with it. And then after that, now we can simply, we want to give it a variable, of course. I'll call this b. And after that, we can simply just print out p to the console like this. So first line here, we're opening the file, we're assigning it to A. That's the open file now. And then now we want to collect those red lines, right? So we also have to save that as a variable. So it's a.read lines. This is to read all the lines. And once again, this .read lines is this file method. And we're saving this all to the value of B. So those red lines now is B. That A is just the file itself. So now what we're going to do is print B because we actually want to print what it read. So we save this. And then now let's run it. So it ran on this one. So it looks like I did not open up the right file. Let me see what it's called. File.txt. File.txt here as well. Let me see. Let me see my error. Run. No. Let me see to open file.txt. Okay, saying no such file, word directory, file.txt. Let me see why that is. Maybe this isn't updated correctly. So let's open this again. I'm just gonna edit with ideally. Save it and run it. Okay, there we go. So, oh no, this is not updated. Okay, I had a different file open, it looks like before. Let's just write the code again quickly. So I want to say a equals open parentheses, and then we pass the value file.txt, your file name, whatever it's called, and then we pass the mode, so it's read mode. Then after that, I want to save another variable with the red lines, and we use the read lines method to do this. So I'm going to say a.read lines, and I'm saying a because that's the file we're doing it with, file.txt, like that. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to pretty much print b. Make sure I spelled read lines. Okay, yeah, that's correct. Run this. And we see hello test 1, 2, 3. So that reason we were getting that bug earlier is just because I had a file that was no longer existed in that location open. But now I opened it up in the right place. So what was I also going to look at? I wanted to show this text file itself. So remember, it does actually say hello test 1, 2, 3 within it. So this is that file.txt. I have it open in Notepad. And this is our Python program here that I also have open in its own thing. So if we add multiple lines to this now, if I say hello test 1, 2, 3 now has also, let's say they're all on different lines. So hello and then test 1, 2, 3 all on different lines, and I save this again. If we minimize this and we go to run this, so let's save this and run it, we see our new output is hello test 1, 2, 3. And then we have that end by itself because I had a new line at the end that was empty. So how do we go about getting rid of these slash symbols when we're reading the file? Because maybe we want to go back and print out what this is saying to the user or have it saved somewhere, but we don't care about that /n. Well, we can do it with a trick. So let's show this trick in the presentation. And yeah, so pretty much the same example here. We open the file, we read the lines, and we print what it reads to the console. So here's the trick we can do to pretty much get rid of this. So first we're going to create an empty list, call the variable whatever you want. And then now we're going to iterate through each line in file.txt, because something I didn't mention, kind of like how that input function, the same way it saves it as a string, it's like recognized as a string in our Python program when we call on it later. That read lines method, it's recognized as a list. So all the lines it reads, as you saw, it was even printing out actually, as it was printing out over here, as you even saw, it prints out like how it would print out a list. It has those brackets and stuff. So that's how the read lines actually saves what it read. It saves it as a list. So with it being a list, what we can actually do is iterate through that list. So we're going to iterate through each line in file.txt, which was created up here. So we have c.append, and then we have a line.strip. So this is going to be important for what we talked about earlier. If you remember, we talked about methods and we talked about the .strip method and how we use that for removing white space that's before and after the text that the user enters in or whatever text is there. And now we can use .strip to remove that escape character, can't we? Because that's also technically white space since it's going on to create a new line. So technically what we're doing here is we're doing for line in B. So for each line read in file.txt, we're going to append to this list we have C. C is a new empty list. We're going to add to it the line. So whatever line it just read is going to be added to C. So it's basically just duplicating the list, but it's going to duplicate the line, except that new line is now going to be stripped. So hopefully that makes sense. So try it for ourselves. Let's see if that makes sense afterwards. So first of all, let's just let's look at our file.txt again. I'm going to remove this white space we have at the end and save it. Now let's write this program. So C is basically a brand new list now. It's no longer dealing with B. It's its own variable that's a list, and it's pretty much just everything to C is going to get added from file.txt. So we're saying C is just an empty list like that. So now that we have C, what's happening here is that we're writing for line in B, since that's the name of our red lines. Go like that. For line in B, we are going to c.append. So first of all, for line in B, what number is that? Well, that's as many lines as we have in our file.txt. So if we have 20 lines, it's going to do this 20 times, right? So it's going to do it the same amount of times as the same amount of lines we have in this file over here. So for a line in B, we're going to c.append what is currently the line. So the current line. So line is that line it's currently on, and it'll take the text from that and append it to the list. So not only is it just going to take this line, it's also going to take the line stripped, which will remove the /n. So we're going to say line.strip. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple, but it works. Now I'm just going to say print C, like that. So once again, we're saying for line in B. So for each line in the file.txt that it read, it's going to add the line that it read, plus it's going to remove the stripped from it. So this is a brand new list now. So we're going to save this and we're going to run it. So it's going to print B, and it's also going to print the new output C. So run this. Okay, looks like I spelled strip wrong. Strip, save that now, run it again. And now we see the before output when we were just going straight raw from the file, and we had .read lines up here. We had the /n, and now we have the /n removed. So that also showcases one of those useful ways we can use methods. So the methods we used for this were this list method .append, and we also used the string method .strip. And yeah, it worked pretty well because we were able to append for each line in B, and we are able to strip each line. And the best part about this program is that everything's pretty dynamic, I guess you could say, because we don't have to change anything afterwards. If we add more lines to our text file, this will also update because it's counting how many lines there are in total. And yeah, it's worked pretty well, it looks like. So that is reading to a text file, and that's also getting those escape symbols to disappear. So besides those escape symbols, let's just actually go down here. We also have some other symbols that represent other things as well. For example, if we tab, like we indent in, that's represented with a /t. And there's also another one, which I can't remember right now, but there are a couple more escape symbols that we can mess around with. So to do this, we can actually put it in our own print function. It doesn't need to be in a text file. We can say hello, and I can actually put a /n like that, I believe. Let me make sure. I think it's /n like that. I can put a /n like that, and I can write something else here. I'll say hello again, and it'll appear on a new line. And we see it does. And the reason there's that space is because I had white space there because I put a space. But yeah, we can also use these symbols within our own Python code. And this is like trying to format the string, basically. So we can use that within our code, and it'll be seen in a text file if it exists there as well. So hopefully that makes sense. So that's reading to a file. And we also learned about those escape characters now. So writing to a file. It's cool to read to a file, but sometimes we want to add on to a file, or we want to create a file and actually start writing to it to maybe save data on what's going on. So we can open the file simply in write mode now. So it's the same thing, the open function, and now we're switching that R to W for write mode. And yeah, so the syntax for writing in Python is very similar to reading in Python, and we just simply need to change the mode. So write mode gives the Python program permission to overwrite the file. But what's important to note is that it's overwriting the file. So that means that it's going over what already exists, and it's erasing it, and it's writing over it, which sometimes we don't want. Sometimes we want to add on to a file. But if you ever enter in a file name that doesn't exist, so let's say I put in blah blah.txt, we know that I didn't create a folder called blah blah or a file called blah blah.txt. If we open that up in write mode, it will create that folder brand new if it doesn't already exist. So yeah, that's the cool thing about it. So writing to a file now, here's the syntax for doing it. We have some more methods now, and we also have this .close method. So first we have open the file, then we have .write to the file. So a.write. In this case, we're not using .read lines because we're not reading anything. So we're saying a.write la la la. That's our argument we're passing with this method, I guess. And yeah, so a.close is important because pretty much what that does is that actually saves it. So if we open the file and we write this, if our Python program ends and we never close it, our changes won't be saved. So it's important to close the file after we're done so we can save it, and then next time we go into it, it will be there. So yeah, open is the function used to open files. .write is a file method used to write in a file, and .close is a method used to close and save changes made to a file. So this is pretty simple of what's going on here. Let's mess around with it as well. So we already have our file.txt existing from earlier. So let's just mess around with that one. So first, let me make sure this is all good. Yeah, looks good. And then let's say a.open, a.open, and then it's our file name, file.txt, and then it's the mode we're writing in. So we're writing in W mode, which is write. Then what we want to do now is write to the file. So first, let's see the contents that are in it. Currently, we have hello, test1, test, and then 1, 2, 3. So if I say I want to write to the file, I'm just going to say a.write, and I'll say 1, 2, 3. Or I'll say cleared. Let's save this and let's run it. We're not going to see any output here. The program is just going to run. The only thing we're going to see here is an error. But we look at our file now. We might have to reopen it because it hasn't updated yet. So let's look at our file. Let me open it up again in my file explorer, file.txt. We see that it has been emptied out. Oh, sorry, I didn't save the file actually. Okay, so that's my bad. So yeah, I need to save the file by closing it. So a.close. So we actually saw what happened there. And we saw that the file is open or empty now because we opened the file and we just overwrote everything and we pretty much emptied it out first. Then when we actually added something to it, we didn't save it afterwards. So now if I save this, I run this, of course. F5 to run. The program has run now. I'm going to minimize this. We're going to close this. We're going to open up this file.txt now. And we see that cleared is apparent within the file. So it's added onto the file. And of course, we know that if we wanted to keep adding new lines, we could use that escape character within our own Python program. So that's pretty much writing to a file. I also want to show off what it does if a file doesn't exist. So let's say this file is called blah.txt. We can run this. We get no errors. And then we can look at the output over here. So let's look at our file explorer. We see it created a file called blah.txt, and inside it, it says cleared. So you can imagine this can be used for a lot of interesting stuff. Maybe you're saving logs on something and you want to do if statements. So you're saying if this happens, log somewhere here. You can just do a lot of things with it. So that in reading to files. But we have one more thing to talk about. We're writing to a file now, but we're actually overwriting that file. What if I have a file, maybe it's saving the wins. Maybe for each one, it has a log of this person won, this person won, this person won. This is a log to see your history on how you performed. If we want to change this and just keep adding to a file, opening and closing it, we have to append to that file, right? We can't have it remove everything. Again, that's just very not useful, and it deletes our progress. So once again, we can also use the /n character ourselves. And yeah, how do we write to a file without erasing everything? To do this, we would call it appending to a file. And to do this, we would use the A mode, the append mode. So the append mode gives our Python permission to add on to an existing file. And the append mode works the same way the write mode works, except for the fact that it does not overwrite, but instead it adds on to. So a.write hello. It wrote it, and then we still have to close the file, of course, to save the changes since we are indeed making changes. So let's look at that now. That's pretty much going to wrap up the end of today's camp day. So we didn't do any programs today. We didn't make any programs today. But we're going to learn this, and this will be useful for one of the remaining camp days. So simply, I'm just going to switch this to A mode now because blah.txt does already exist. I'm going to say a.write cleared. I'm going to say hello. It's going to write hello. It's going to write 1, 2, 3. It's going to write this. It's going to write is. And I'll say it's going to write a. It's going to write test. So let's save this and let's run it. So first of all, let's look at the existing file. This is file.txt. We want the other one. We want blah.txt. So we see it only says cleared right now, but cleared should stay there. And we also don't care for it to write cleared again. Let's go like that. Actually, kind of have to. So save this, run it. The program ran successfully. We look at our file updated now. So I'm going to open this up again. And we see it wrote cleared. Below 1, 2, 3, this is a test. So that's writing files. What we just did was we added onto this file. So how can you use this in an if-else program? Okay, sure. So I'll show you. Maybe we can build a program quickly. So let me see. What should we build? Let's build I want to build like a simple game. I'd say guess a number. Yeah, let's build a simple guess a number program. And then we'll actually upgrade this program next camp, honestly. So first of all, our number is going, I'm just building a simple game right now. I'll show it afterwards. So our number is going to be 5. And then we're going to have the user try to guess the number. So we're going to say print guess the number. And then we'll say, we said print get this number. I'll put the exclamation point. And then we'll say the number. Let me see. Okay, we're going to keep it simple, honestly, since we don't have too much time. I'll just say input a equals input. Let's say type here. And then we'll let the user enter in something. We'll let the user have 3 tries, I guess, honestly, as well. So we'll say if a equals number, print you win. And then we're also going to create this file and we're going to add a win to the log. So let's do that. So we need to open up the file, of course. We're doing, let's call this something else and we'll say that. So we'll say yes, and we'll call this guess as well since it's the same thing. So if guess is the number, it prints you win, and it's also going to, let's create a file called log. I'm going to create that ahead of time instead of writing it here. So let's go back to our test file, desktop test. So I'm just going to delete these 2 for now. I'm going to delete these 2. So like that, I'm going to create a new file, and it's going to be called, not a folder, my bad. I'm going to create a new file. I'll do it inside here. And it's going to be called log. Log.txt. It's being saved to this test folder. I don't know. Okay, yeah. So it looks like that worked. Once again, we don't need log to exist anymore. Save that. That's good. So it's going to open up a log now. So I'll just say a equals open. I'll say open what's called log.txt. And it's also going to open it in append mode because actually it needs to open it in write mode, or no, append mode. It already exists. So we're going to open up in append mode since I already created it and it exists. If it didn't exist, I could open up in write mode and that would create it for us immediately. And then we're going to now look at this file and we're going to write to it. So we're going to a.write you win, or say win. And if we used, and I'm not going to complicate this even more because we're going to learn about modules and module programming next camp. But anyways, we can say win, okay? And then we can also say if guess does not equal number, let's say print you lose. And then it's going to do this again. So I also have to put that dot close at the end. So a dot close here. And then a dot close here. So in some programs, for example, before we run this, in some other programs, for example, where I see stuff like this happening, maybe it's not happening with Python, but stuff like this in general, is that maybe in a game I play, Rainbow Six Siege, and the installer for when you're playing it or when it's downloading, if something goes wrong and like it crashes, the game crashes, what it'll do is that it'll, in a folder, it will add a like text file that holds information for the crash and like the date when it happened and stuff. So that's basically like it creating files then to do stuff. Another example of when you would want to actually read a text file, maybe you have a text file with a lot of information on it and you want to go look through it. You could look through it with this, or maybe you want to create your own files and save history on things. You could use this as well. So if we use like more features in Python, I guess I'll call it like that for now. We could do stuff so we could say lost at, and then we could say the time when they lost, or we could also just log a bunch of other stuff. So there's many reasons for why. I think it's like pretty specific for why do you want to read or write to a text file. It just depends on what type of program you're building. So in this case, maybe it's just going to be a history of our wins and losses. And yeah, so let's test this. Actually, maybe I'll put this in a loop. So let's just say we have 5 rounds, right? What I was going to do is I'm going to make this more complicated. I was going to tell it to tell you if your number's greater or less than the number that they're meant to guess. But yeah, I think we'll honestly just leave it like this as now for time's sake. Also, I said if. I meant if. Actually, I can even just say else, right? Because if it's not this number, it's anything else. But I'll just say elif since I already have all this writing here. So that looks good. That looks good. Maybe else. I'll actually add an else. I'll say else print I don't understand. So this won't ever run because it's a number. Oh, and what I actually have to do is I have to put an int around this, right? Like that. And there we go. I think we're good now. So let me see if I need to create a loop anywhere so we can actually run this multiple times. I'll put the loop right here. So I'm just going to say while true. That's something you can do if you just want the loop to always keep running. So I'll say while true. And I'll indent it like this. And I guess in here I'll say break. So if we win, we'll get a break. So let's lose a couple times and then we'll win. So let's run this. It's getting a literal. That puts something wrong here. Oh yeah, I didn't put a closing quotation. There we go. So let's run this. This is pretty simple program once again. And if we want to make it more complicated, we could do stuff so you can get hints if you get it wrong. So like the number is greater than that, the number is less than that. But anyways, we're going to type here, I'll say number is 9. I'm printing this out here. I think I made a mistake. Let me look. Let me say print u, if guess equals number, print u when log a rate u when close. Okay, maybe let's change this loop. I'm just going to use a for loop then, because I'm not sure why it's running like that. I'll say for x in range 10. I think the mistake was down here, right? If guess not equal to number, print you lose. Open.logs.txt, right, close. Honestly, we'll just put a break at the end of both of these. Honestly, we'll leave it so we don't even need the loop. The loop's just taking time. Save like this, run it. I have an indent somewhere. Oh yeah, this is all indented when it doesn't need to be. How do I do my backwards step? Okay, I forget how to do the backwards step. I'm just gonna have to go like this then. I'll do Control-Z. Sorry, I don't know why I'm not able to do a backwards tab anymore. There we go. So I'm trying to go like that. Save that. I think I was missing a quotation somewhere. Looks like I'm not. Run. Okay, it looks like I am. So it goes over here. Save. Whenever I try to run an elif, I get a syntax error. Do you have any idea why I would be doing that? If you're getting a syntax error for your elif statement, Maybe it's because not you're putting a full condition there. If you have a full condition, like elif guess not equal to, you have your comparison operator and you have it comparing something like a condition, it would make sense. Maybe you're accidentally just putting elif by itself. Maybe if you what's it called? If you maybe copy and paste like a sample, a little bit of the code you have, I can look at it quickly. But anyways, let's run this. Guess the number. I say the number's 4. It says I lose. Okay, let's finish this program and then we'll go solve that problem. So I guessed the number. I said 4. It said I lose. So let's go see if it logged my loss at file.t or log.txt. Desktop test log, and we see we got lost. So log actually, or the loss actually looped, which we did not want. Oh, that's from earlier. Sorry. So let me clear it out again. So this happened when I first ran the program. I put a bug somewhere. I had a bug. But if I run it again now, I just cleared out the file and saved it. I have it open somewhere. Let's close this. Let's run it. Type here. I'll say the number is 5. It says I win. I go look at my logs. I can even get it to print out the log for me. But if I go look at my logs, it sees that I have a win. And if I run it again, it's going to do it again. So let's just close this temporarily for now. Let's run this program one last time. In the meanwhile, while I'm doing this, if you think you already get the point of what I'm trying to show, you can elif respond for it equals no. Okay, 1 second. I'll run this again. Type, I think I won last time. I'll lose this time. 0, you lose. We go look at the log, and we see it says loss here. The reason it's putting on the same line is because I didn't put that escape character in my code, but I could fix that. But anyways, hopefully that makes sense, and then let's look at this error. elif response for it equals no. So my guess, if I'm going to guess immediately on why that's happening, it says I can show the comment. Okay, that's interesting. Anyways, my guess is that if elif response equals 4, my guess would be that your response for either the user's entering an integer for response 4, or you're saving the response for as an integer, or you're like comparing 2 different data types basically that wouldn't work together. And if that's not it, I'd guess that it's not indented properly. Maybe you can copy and paste the error you get when you run it, and I could try looking at that. Maybe you can copy and paste the error and you can see what that says. If it says like it's an indentation error or something. Yeah, let me just clear so we're not working here anymore. Here, so copy and paste the error you get and look at that. Maybe it's, I don't know if you, this might be a crazy guess, but maybe it's because I don't know if you, it highlights elif itself. Okay, let me see what we can do. If you can try copying and pasting the error itself, or you can try putting more of the code so I can look at it. Awesome. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Maybe you meant response 4 as well, because you were missing response 4 was spelled incorrectly, so it could have been that as well. Because right now, as that is, that by itself doesn't get any errors unless if you have something in that as well. Yeah. If you copy and paste your error, I think we'll be able to see what the problem is. Just copy and paste like that red highlight. Okay, so it's the typo. Okay. Okay, nice. Yeah, maybe next camp we'll do something about like looking at errors and trying to understand them, because those errors, they can be useful to like reveal what the problem is, because they tell you the exact language problems and stuff. Yeah, I was gonna say that when I said I had a random crazy guess because it said respond. Okay. So that pretty much wraps up today's camp. If you want a sneak peek for what we're going to do next camp, we're going to learn about module programming so we can add modules outside of Python to our program. And that way we can get stuff like random. Random is a module, and what we can do is that we can actually randomize things. So that guessing game, we could actually have that number be randomized each time. There's other modules as well we can play around with. But yeah, we're going to be learning about module programming next time. And also, I think we should just try building like a program with everything we've learned. So we might try doing that as well. But yeah, thank you for joining me this camp. I hope your program goes well. I see you're trying to build something. But yeah, I recommend you mess around with it. So especially reading and writing with text files, even if you don't think it's gonna be useful, maybe try locking stuff, or maybe like have the user create a shopping list on their program here, and then maybe have it like be formatted in a text file nicely afterwards. But yeah, there's just a lot you can do with it. It just depends if it's actually gonna be useful for your specific program. But yeah, so thank you for joining me this camp. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you learned something useful as well. And I hope to see you next camp as well. So I'll talk to you guys later, and thank you.